Good evening. Welcome to my channel. My name is David Okun, and thank you for your support and thank you for subscribing to my channel. I've been talking about the cost of living. It's a crisis in Britain, it's a crisis across the globe, and I've been looking at the poor people and the rich, and that's why I've been looking at the third and the second and the first, the richest man on earth, and begin with the third richest man on earth. And I look at Elon Musk as being the richest man on earth. I'm now looking at uh, uh, actually look at Jeff Bezos as being the third richest man on earth. I'm looking at the second richest man on earth being Elon Musk. The first is actually Bernard Arnault. It's a French. All of them are worth in their hundreds of billions of US dollars. And I've been examining their wealth in terms of the cost of living. They operate under capitalism, and capitalism allows them to make wealth, unlimited wealth, which is a good thing, like as we show in the other videos. If you haven't seen the other videos, watch the other videos in conjunction with this video, and to make more sense of what is happening with these videos together, looking at the cost of living. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, subscribe to my channel, and support the channel by sharing with family and friends. And let us look at wealthy people and compare wealthy people with poor people around the world. The two great richest men are Jeff Bezos of Amazon. His residence in the USA, United States of America. They are Americans. Elon Musk of Tesla is also an American who was born in Africa, in South Africa. So I've been looking at Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk rather. Elon Musk doing different things, but Tesla is his number one project. And so as I look through this material, please follow closely with me. I'll be looking at his behavior. How he creates wealth is important for rich people, is important for poor people who are suffering from the cost of living. And like I said in the past, and the cost of living would not be a problem at all if everyone had money. If we had wealth, the cost of living would not be a problem at all. Now, the cost of living is a problem because we don't have money. We don't have money, so the cost of living becomes a crisis in the UK. It also becomes a crisis globally, because what happens in the UK happens also in the rest of Europe, in the rest of America, and in the Middle East, in Africa, in the Eastern world, like China, North Korea, South Korea, in developing countries like in South America, in Brazil, in the Middle East, in Israel, and also in Africa, where poverty takes on a different dimension. If you look at Africa, you find that poverty is actually taking on a different dimension because the structure of development in Africa, the structure of development around parts of the world, the developing countries being markedly different from the mode of development in the developed countries like the United Kingdom, in the regions such as the United States of America, and also like Europe. And so the cost of living as a crisis would not occur if we had a more generous redistribution of wealth around the different levels of society, such as the lower class of society, of people living in a country, the middle class, and also the working class, and the upper class, such as found with the family of the likes of Elon Musk, and Jeff Bezos, and Bernard Arnault of France. These are actually multi-billionaires, first, second, and third in the world. The three most rich, most wealthy, the three wealthiest people in the world. These are the names. They are all men, and there are women also who are actually multi-billionaires. They experience the cost of living, but they also experience the cost of living in different ways, and it doesn't create a crisis for them. If you are a multimillionaire, the cost of living does not create a crisis for someone like you who is actually a multimillionaire, who is also a multi-billionaire. And this is the whole point I'm trying to explain to the people of the world. I'm also trying to explain to the people of Britain. And for the people of Britain, beginning from when I started recording videos in terms of the issue of the cost of living, I've consistently said to the people of Britain that the government of the UK give different help to the people of this country. And if you visit the government website in Britain, in the UK, if you visit the local authorities in the respective region where you live, and also if you access the website of big charity organization working within the local authorities up and down the country, these big and small and medium charitable organization working alongside the government within the social policy objective, and also laws governing these policies. You find that there are available help to actually improve income. And like I said previously, the cost of living is actually an income related problem. And if there were the income distribution in Britain was actually equitable, the cost of living as a crisis would have not occurred. And suffice it to say that the cost of living having been exacerbated by wars in Ukraine, and crises such as COVID-19, and crises such as Brexit. When Britain left Europe, if these factors are not occurred, and the cost of living, in my opinion, will still be there as a crisis, given the system of capitalism having failed to actually cater for people who are disproportionately disadvantaged in society, such as Britain, such as Europe, such as anywhere in the developed world, in the Middle East, but also in Africa. I've said this over and again throughout the series of this video, and I'll be saying it again and again. The cost of living is topical and it's actually affecting ordinary people of the world. And I've also said that the cost of living affects poor people, and if you work for a living, then poverty is common, and the companies, people who work for a living, and there are a lot of people in Britain who actually do not believe they are poor, but I would say that it is very important that people realize the real world, and also to understand that if you work for a living, even if it's of necessity for you to work for a living, then you are going to be affected by the cost of living in a gross way, such as happening now in this country and across the globe. And as much as it is difficult for people to understand the fact that they might be poor, and in spite of the fact that individual might believe to think that they are actually rich, and especially if you are living in the developed world, such as in Britain, United States of America, in many developed countries, a lot of people normally are keen to believe to be actually better off than they are, and they tend to believe that they are rich, and this is actually understandable, given that there are people who actually think if they have money, if they can spend to get what they need or even what they want, then they are construed within themselves, believing that they are actually well off. And indeed, a lot of rich people in substantive way, they are actually well off. But if you, in the process of buying something you want, something you need, in the process of doing so, you have to borrow money, and you have to use credit card, you have to use debit card, and you probably sometimes have to get all sorts of credit from wherever you get. If you're buying a property, if you're buying a house in a place like the UK, Europe, America, in any developed country, you get something known as mortgage. Mortgage actually is a credit, which means you borrow something borrow wealth actually to buy something of value, such as sometimes you go into something known as finance. When you're buying a car, you do something called finance. When you're buying furniture, or even a cooker, a chair, a bed, or a vehicle, a lot of people also buy really expensive cars and really expensive whatever they want to buy. Things like motorcycles, whatever you want to buy. If you go and get finance, then you begin to feel good about yourself. You begin to feel good about life, and this is really important in human life. But the reality always is the case when you try to pay back what you borrowed, when you begin to struggle with debt, which is actually a common feature with the cost of living, at least in practice, but also in policy. You find that people begin to struggle extremely badly with the result that sometimes the creditors may actually take away your car. I mean, come and actually take your things from the house and sell it This is some people in the UK, they are called the bailiffs. The bailiffs are actually very effective recovery agencies of debt. If you're in debt, they can come and clear the whole house of any property you may have, and having borrowed every material you have in the house, the bailiff can actually come and take away everything you got, and you may be left with nothing in the house. And they go and auction these things in the at the auctions. The sale of your things at any price, and sometimes they give away price. You can lose everything, and they will still come back for more. I mean, if they come and take your property from the house and they don't recover their money, they will come back and ask for more money. They're not going to walk away. Creditors are very brutal if they are actually trying to recover their debt. And they are very, very nice people. The customer service team at the credit operating offices are extremely sweet. If you work for a living, if you know you have assets, they are going to really kneel down literally before you, begging you to borrow money. And the moment you are in debt with their borrowing, with having borrowed money from these creditors, then you will discover that they are very brutal, they are very vicious. They turn from being very sweet and very lovely to being almost violent and very, very ruthless. The government of the UK and the government around the world now have given a free hand to creditors. They can lend and borrow as much as they like, and when they're recovering their borrowings, when they're recovering their debts, they are so brutal. They are, in many occasions, acting as if they could be above the law. And if you look at the policy of recovery, debt recovery, even with guidance given by the government, it's not clear. Normally, people struggle to interpret what the government say. The government normally in its policy recommendation, policy pronouncement, policy settings, they operate something in textual terms known as gobbledygook. Gobbledygook is actually the simplicity or the complexity of words, sentences, and I suppose languages, because some of the language used in law and policy is so opaque. They provide a fertile ground for opacity, for inaccessibility. People really struggle. Ordinary people struggle to understand what policy or writers or policy setters actually try to say, and that is a trap, and it's a major complication with the system, and millions and sometimes billions people around the globe suffer the wrath of the credit economy, the culture of borrowing is a trap. I have actually said a lot about this today, about the credit system. I've said a lot about the credit system in this video because it is actually a fundamental feature of the cost of living as a crisis globally, not just in the UK, but also in parts of Africa. The credit economy, because of the global economic system, because of capitalism as a political and economic system, the credit economy is actually spreading like wildfire around the globe. It is consuming the vulnerable, the unsuspecting. We live in a globe where you need to be enlightened about everything, and complacencies in the past and under capitalism and individualism as well. You need to realize that we are in an age where there's a presumption by the state that we as a society are adults. In the years previous to the contemporary time, there was a presumption in policy and also law, as well as actually administrative processes, that society was at its infancy, and therefore there was a sense of policy intervention within capitalism that which actually encompasses government actually intervening to help people who cannot help themselves. Now there is a concurrence given within government policy and practices to the effect that government now see people as grown-ups. And grown-ups actually look after themselves. They are no longer children. The government have said over and again, the British government, in particular the Conservative Party, I've actually said openly in this country that they are no nanny. They are not nanny. They don't want to be a nanny state. They don't want to provide a nanny state, and this has actually disallowed practices where government look after people. These people have been saying it over and over and over. It is about time now for us to try and really interpret government behavior and government policy and government administration in a clearer actually context, and that's the function of my actually having to speak with you in this video. And I've said it in different ways actually over the last 2 months when we began this channel. And as we continue with the process with this channeling, and I'll try to say it again and again, that we need to be really prepared for a crisis like the cost of living. The crisis of the cost of living is here to stay, and it's not going to go away. And after the cost of living, as we get used to the cost of living as a crisis, there are other crises which are going to follow, and like it does under capitalism, one fundamental feature of capitalism is actually crisis, which actually affect the poor more than it affects the rich. And also a feature of capitalism, we have the rich and the poor living side by side. And there are a group of people calling themselves the middle class. They also live alongside the super rich and the super poor. And that is actually a feature of capitalism. Capitalism has been, since the Adam of society, it has always existed as a mode of rule. And there have been different variants of capitalism: state capitalism, social capitalism, and all the rest of it. Now we have the ultra, we have the raw aspect of capitalism operating globally, and this is actually why the main reason why there is a cost of living is a crisis, and the reason why we are going to have more crisis going forward. And that's why I'm also trying to examine how income is fundamental in affecting the crisis of the cost of living. And that's why also I'm trying to look at super rich like Elon Musk. And my invitation to viewers is to actually pay attention to the incidents of Elon Musk, is his history, where he came from, how he acquired his wealth, and how his behavior as a multi-billionaire, and is the companies. We are now we'll be looking at in the next video following this. We have been looking at the boring company. In other words, they actually dig tunnels, and they dig tunnels for all sorts of things, for travels, for communications, and one of the leading infrastructures for boring tunnel. So that is going to be in the next video, and this was more or less a generalized overview of the cost of living, and I'm just trying to bring some intelligence into this discussion, linking the cost of living with the rich and also the poor. Thank you for watching this part of the video. I'll see you in the next part. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe to this channel if you like the program, if you like the material. But also, If you like it, click like and click notification bell so that you don't lose the next video. And also leave a comment, share with your family and friend. Thank you and God bless you. Thank you. Bye bye.